Hello, welcome to helpyourmath.com. In this video, we are going to discuss simple interest. In reviewing the definitions that we looked at in the last video, because we're going to use these definitions in order to understand the simple interest formula. So recall that interest, is the fee charged for the use of the money. Principal, P or P sub 0, is the amount of money borrowed or placed into a savings account. Rate R is the percent of the principal paid for having money loaned or earned for investing money. Unless indicated otherwise, rates are given as a percent for a term of 1 year. Time T or term is the length of time that the money is being borrowed or invested. When the rate is given as a percent per year, time has to be written in years. A, accumulated amount, is the amount of the loan or investment plus the interest paid or earned. So the simple interest formula can be written as I, interest, is equal to PRT, or P sub 0 RT. A, or accumulated amount, is equal to P plus I, or the principal plus I, which is equal to, because we substitute this first I, and we substitute in PRT to get P plus PRT, or P sub 0 plus P sub 0 RT is equal to P bracket 1 plus RT. So what we did here is we factored out the P or P sub 0 in order to get P sub 0 bracket 1 plus RT. Most of the time, we don't put the little 0 here. We just write P bracket 1 plus RT close bracket, where I is the interest, A is the end amount, principal plus the interest, P is the principal starting amount, R is the interest rate in decimal form, and T is time. The units of measurement, years, months, etc., for the time should match the time period for the interest rate. Let us now look at question number 3. A friend asks to borrow $300 and agrees to repay it with 3% interest, assuming T is equal to 1 or 1 year. How much interest will you earn? How much will you receive from your friend in total? So here, P is equal to $300. That is the principal. The rate of 3%, we put that into decimal form as 0.03. So 3% is put into decimal form as 0.03. I is the interest. So the principal, $300, times the rate, 0.03, times time, 1 year, but we don't write in 1 since we assume that it's 1, is equal to $9. Now you will receive from your friend $9 interest on top of the $300 your friend borrowed. This means you will receive a total of $309 from your friend after a year. Or A, the amount that you accumulate is $300 plus $9 is $309. Now let's look at question number 4. Suppose your city is building a new park and issues bonds to raise the money to build it. You obtain a $1,000 bond that pays 5% interest annually, that matures in 5 years. How much interest will you earn? So in this particular problem, you will earn 5% interest each year. Now remember, interest is equal to the principal times the rate as a decimal point times the time. So in 1 year, that'll be $1,000. The rate in decimal form is 0.05 times 1 for 1 year. So that's equal to $50 in interest that you will earn in 1 year. Over the course of 5 years, you will earn a total of $250. That means you would have 5 times $50 is equal to 250, where the 5 here means the $5 that you wait for it to mature. So your interest will be a total of $250. When the bond matures, you will receive back $1,000 from what you originally paid and the interest, giving you a total of $1,250, where A, the amount accumulated, is equal to the principal plus the principal times the rate times the time is equal to $1,000 plus $250. And remember, this here is equal to the interest. Now let's look at some more definitions. APR, annual percent rate. What does this mean? Interest rates are usually given as annual percent rate, the total interest that will be paid in a year. If the interest is paid in smaller time increments, the APR will be divided up. What this means, for example, is a 6% APR paid monthly would be divided into 12, meaning the 6% divided by the 12 months. So that would be 0.5% payments each month. Another example is a 4% annual interest paid quarterly will be divided into 4 parts, meaning that the 4% divided by the 4 quarters in a year will be equal to 1% payments every quarter of a year. Now let's look at question number 5. Treasury notes or T-notes are bonds issued by the federal government to cover its expenses. Suppose you obtain a $1,000 T-note with a 4% annual interest rate paid semi-annually with a maturity in 4 years. how much interest will you earn? Now, semi-annually means that you will be paid twice a year. So the 4% interest will be divided into 2% payments. 4% divided by 2 is 2 payments. So you will receive 2 payments in a year. So the principal here, how much will you earn total in the total? So the principal here is $1,000. The rate, okay, is 2% each half a year. So we put the rate in terms of a decimal and we put 0.02. Time is equal to 8 is the 4 years because we have 8 half years. So that means the total interest that you will earn is the 1,000 times the 0.02, which was the 2% semi-annually, and the 8 times that you get paid, so that you will get a total of $160 in interest. Question 6. It's very common for simple interest loans to be paid off in monthly increments. For example, a biotech company borrowed $86,000 to update their lab equipment at 6% simple interest for 1.5 years. What are their monthly payments? So for this particular question, we're going to go to the whiteboard to work it out in detail. In this problem, we're being asked to find the accumulated balance or the accumulated amount. So A is equal to, according to the formula, the amount that we need, which is $86,000 times 1, and we have to put the 1 because that would represent the amount that we are borrowing, that we need for our lab. But when we borrow money, there's often interest, and that would be the 6%, which we write as a decimal point, 0.06%, and then times how long, because it's 6% per year, how long we're borrowing for. So we're borrowing for 1.5 years. Now, what we want to do is we're going to multiply. Remember, we have the brackets here and here. So we're going to have A is equal to 86,000 times 1 plus, and then we have 0.06 times 1.5, so we have to multiply the 86,000 times 0.06 times 1.5. So we multiply this to get
all of these things. With that, we put this in our calculator, multiplying all of this, and we get for this whole thing. So let me write that a little bit better. I'll get rid of these too many brackets. So let me write this a little bit better. So we multiply all this, and we get $7,740. And I'll put my dollar sign here. And I'll bring down my $86,000. $6,000 from up here. And I add those two things, and I will get $93,740. And I don't want to forget my dollar sign, otherwise I don't know what it is. So this is going to be the amount, okay, the accumulated amount. Now, what they're asking me is they're asking me to find what the monthly payment is. Now, since 1.5 years is equal to 18 months. Is equal to 18 months. So what I have to do is I have to take that amount of money and divide it by 18 months to find the monthly payment. So I take $93,740 and divide it by 18 months. And I get that the monthly payment for this loan is going to be $5,000, $5,207.78. So now let's go back to our original problem and review this.
Reviewing what we just did, we want to find the accumulated amount of the loan. So A is equal to $86,000 using our formula that we showed on the whiteboard. 1 plus 0.06, that's the 6%, over 1.5 or 1.5 years. So that's going to be 93,740. We can divide this amount by the number of months to find the monthly payment. So a year and a half, as we mentioned on the whiteboard, is the same thing as 18 months. So that's going to be 93,740 divided by 18. So that's going to be $5,207.78. In the simple interest formula, there are 4 variables: interest, principal, rate, and time. And sometimes we're asked to solve for one of these other variables. So for example, in question number 7, we have here after receiving an inheritance worth $15,250, you invested it in bonds for 10 years. Over that time, you received $9,150 in simple interest. What was the rate that the investment paid? So here we want to solve for the rate. So let us go over to the whiteboard and work this out in detail. In question number 7, as we see, we're not asked for the accumulated balance in the usual way, but here we're actually being asked to find the rate or percent interest. So in looking at the problem, we find that we receive an inheritance, which is our principal, P, equals 15,250. So that's our inheritance. Now we receive the inheritance as a form of an investment in bonds. So that means that over time, it's going to increase. So this bond, T, is a 10-year bond. And the interest that we're told we earn on it, that we're going to receive an interest, I, of $9,000, $9,150. $50. Now remember, the interest is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. Now we don't know rate, but we know the other things. So we know that we have 9,150, and that's our interest. And that would be equal to our original principal, which is 15,250. And then that's times R, which we don't know. And this is going to be over 10 years. So we're going to solve for R. So solving for R means we do a little bit of algebra. So that means what we do is, in solving for R, we have the 1,500. So here we have over 10 years, so we're going to multiply this. So that means we're going to do this. Dollars, 9,150 is equal to dollars over 10 years. So that's going to be dollars
152, 500, 152,500, and that's going to be equal to times R. Now what we have to do is we have to divide this side by dollars 152, 500, and then this side by that same amount, dollars 152,500. These cancel out. So when we divide our original amount, meaning how much we got, which was 9,150 divided by 152,500, we got this is equal to 0.06. So now we take this decimal point to get our percent. We multiply that by 100%, and we get that the interest rate was 6%.
So as on the whiteboard, we found that the principal is $15,250. The time that we are investing it into the bond is 10 years. We found that the interest was not, we were given that the interest was $9,150. And we used a simple interest formula, I is equal to PRT. So in this case, since we're looking for R, we have to solve for R. So we'll put the numbers in, and here we have the variable R, like we did on the whiteboard. And as I said, we solved for R, and we found that R was equal to 0.06. And we know if we multiply 0.06 times 100%, that means that there was 6% interest. In question number 8, a cell phone sells for $600 or for $300 down payment, together with $360 to be paid after 2 months. Find the rate of interest charged under this scheme. So here again, we want to find R, or the rate. So let us go over to the whiteboard and work this out in detail. Now we're buying from the cell phone company the $600 phone. We're going to put down $300 for the phone. We have left to pay $300. So the cell phone company is going to charge us $360 for the amount that we're going to borrow. This is going to be our principal over 2 months. So we're going to have to pay in 2 months the rest of this $300 plus interest. So the interest on this, I, will be the $360 minus the $300. That's our principal. is equal to $60. So now what we want to do is we want to find the rate. We don't know the rate. We know the principal is $300. And we know our time is equal to 2 months. So we have our interest, I, and I'll put this here, is equal to $60. So I is equal to $60 times our principal, I principal, which is $300, R, we don't know, and T is 2 months. And we got this from our formula, I is equal to P R T. Now we want to solve for R, because this is a thing we don't know. So we know this, $60, and we're going to multiply 300 times 2. So we're going to get dollars, 600, and month, and we're going to have our rate. Then to solve this, we're going to divide 600 and the month, keep the units, and this cancels. So we end up with dollars, the dollars cancel out, so we don't have dollars. The dollars cancel out. So we end up with 0.1. I'll put a 0 there as a placeholder. 0.1 per month. But that's not the way we usually understand it. So we want to multiply it because we want rate in terms of percent. So times 100%. So that means we have a rate of 10% per month. But we usually don't think of rate in terms of per month. We think of the rate in terms of per year. So in order to do that, we take the 10% and we multiply that per month. And we have 12 months over 1 year. And here we see the months cancel out. And that means our rate is 120%. So that's how we would, in the long, slow way, solve this particular problem or look at this particular question. In reviewing what we just did in question number 8 on the whiteboard, we found that for the first and second months, we had originally $600, which was the cost of the phone, minus $300, which we paid. So we're left with $300 to pay for the phone. Now, according to the provider, meaning the cell phone company, the interest would be $360. That's what they're charging us for the 2 months to cover the phone, minus the $300, which is the actual amount or principal. And that would be equal to $60. that would be the interest. So our formula, I is equal to PRT, which implies $60 is equal to $300 times 2 months times R divided by 100% times 12 months. So R is equal to 120%. Notice how we put everything in terms of months, and then we put it in terms of 1 year, since it's 12 months in a year, so that would be 120% per year. Thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Take care and be well.